We're back in Dallas, Texas, visiting Bob Gibbs and Matthew Wilson in their beautiful Tudor home. You've seen it in its everyday glory, decked out for Christmas and now decorated for Halloween.
Welcome back to our entryway here at Kasaloma, and just like Christmas, it wouldn't be a holiday if we did not decorate our mantel.
This year, Bob and Matthew are embracing a vintage Halloween theme, decorating with whimsical touches, plenty of pumpkins, and DIY decor.
And we try to go for vintage, happy holiday, so you won't see much scary in our Halloween decor, either in or out.
They've also set up a stunning tablescape where they'll host friends before greeting a record number of trick-or-treaters.
We live in a neighborhood where we, on average, get 200 to 300 trick-or-treaters on average, depending on the weather and what day it falls on. So we like to celebrate, and we'll have a table inside, outside, front, and outside back, so you'll get to see the back one in a moment.
Bob and Matthew's home is truly the jewel of their neighborhood, bringing Halloween spirit and joy to everyone who passes by. To watch their full episode ad-free and to see Bob and Matthew's latest additions to their living room, scan the QR code on screen or click the join button below.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Bob.
And I'm Matthew.
Welcome back to Kasaloma. Come on in, we can't wait to show you what we've done for Halloween.
This fall, Homeworthy is all about the season's magic. We're stepping inside homes transformed by autumn's colors, where pumpkins aren't just decorations, they're statements.
We went to the auction in Pennsylvania and brought 4,000 pumpkins back, and I have them all on my stoop, and the neighbor's stoop, and the other's neighbor's stoop, and the other neighbor's stoop, and my backyard.
Where shadows and candlelight mingle to create a hint of spookiness, and every corner tells a story.
And so the theme of this was friends are coming over for a nice dinner. It clearly turned into a bit of a bloodbath. We have some candles and some transitional pieces throughout. There's like teeth and guts.
From extraordinary Halloween displays to cozy gatherings at home, we'll explore spaces that feel both enchanting and inviting.
For the tablescape today, I really wanted to capture all these deep sort of jewel tones for fall. These gorgeous reds and deep purples. They really are rich and inviting.
Plus, in the kitchen, we're celebrating the flavors of the season with dishes that bring warmth, comfort, and a touch of whimsy to the table.
Remember that fall isn't just about the foliage changing, but it's about the mood changing even in the house. And that has to do even with what you're cooking, right? So today we're going to make a really moist, fabulous apple cake.
So light the candles and enjoy our autumnal series, because nothing says home like a little spook and a lot of heart. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Welcome back to our entryway here at Kasaloma, and just like Christmas, it wouldn't be a holiday if we did not decorate our mantel. This year's Halloween mantel, in all transparency, started off pretty easy. It was beautiful. We had it secured, and we woke up the next morning and this was all in the floors. So we had to engineer a new way to do this inspiration. And what this is it's an enormous tree branch that we spray painted black, and it's then grounded in all of these great gilt bronze flowers and pumpkins and crows and these great little apple blossoms, which are kind of fun. And then these cat trick-or-treat lanterns are a great little vintage piece that are hanging off. And then we added to the branches these little glitter. This was, I think, a wreath we cut up and made into branches. Then, of course, we've got our little crows and our butterflies, and then our great candles. I love these bronze kind of hammered candlesticks. But it really is an interesting way, to add a little bit of holiday in a space that traditionally would not get it. It adds a little bit of whimsy, and I love the architecture of it. So it looks like it's just basically sitting on here, but we have it clamped and and secure pretty tightly this time around. That way it doesn't fall on the ground. And next we're going to join Bob over at the piano room.
Welcome back to our piano porch, and as every holiday season we take the opportunity to do a tree on top of the piano. If you're not doing tabletop trees for every occasion, you're really missing out. It gives you an opportunity to collect something differently and do something fun for every holiday. This one is a black flocked tree, and we put it in a really great vintage black basalt container with a lot of gilt goopy bronze ormolu, and then some non-Halloween but kind of spooky candlesticks, and then just filled it with the vintage candy containers, kind of old lithographics. We're not above using plastic ornaments, especially at Halloween. So all of the ornaments in here are plastic with the exception of the skulls, the candy corn, and some of the other figures, which are all J. Strongwater. And then we also love, Bethany Love design. She does vintage Halloween. And as we go through the house today, I think there are 3 ways of attacking Halloween. There's scary, there's happy vintage, and then there's plastic. And we try to go for vintage happy holiday. So you won't see much scary in our Halloween decor, either in or out. So we like the happy jack-o'-lanterns, the cats, anything vintage inspired. So love the black cat on the jack-o'-lantern. This is new, but all done in a vintage style. Of course, I talked about holiday. I can't get away from a bowl with balls for the season. So once again, have that as a quick and easy and cheap way to do some design. And then our cat, also a reference to one that was made in the 30s, much larger scale. So he's standing beside the Christmas tree. And then I talk about, just these great paper mache vintage pieces that you can still pick up for a dime, a quarter a piece. Use them outside as garlands or stuff them in the tree as ornaments. And of course, always a little bit of fresh on the piano just for the season. So with that, we'll head to the dining room. Before we head to the dining room, I also believe in using what you've got for Halloween, really for all of your decorations. And so I always talk about my cause figures going up the stairs, how much hilarity they bring me, no one else. But this year they reminded me of Fantasia and the Magician Apprentice. So ordered little hats and brooms for them, and they all look like they're about to fly to Gryffindor or somewhere. So again, those are things I already owned, and for $5, added a little witch's hat and broom, and boom, you're done. Welcome back to the dining room. As you've seen in our past 2 episodes, we entertain a lot. So we've got a lot of dishware, china, it's stashed everywhere. We've bought, I think, 4 or 5 new sets since you guys were here last. So this is all what we had before, but we're having a Halloween party for a couple of neighbors. We live in a neighborhood where we, on average, get 200 to 300 trick-or-treaters on average, depending on the weather and what day it falls on. So we like to celebrate, and we'll have a table inside, outside front, and outside back, so you'll get to see the back one in a moment. But this is the more formal one. I guess I should call out first is this is a new table and chair since you were here last time. We are big swappers out when we get the opportunity, so we had a lovely dining room and table chair, but we had the opportunity to upgrade a bit. So these are English wheat shield backed and upholstered in wonderful Hermes leather. And then the table is a lucite piece from the 80s that we just love. These have just gotten high as cats back, so we were wonderfully thrilled to find that at an estate sale. And then for the tabletop this year, this is the adult table, so we wanted to make it fun and yet still have a little bit of whimsy to it. So I used 3 different sets of our china. You'll see the base is just a wood charger. These couldn't be easier. These came from Pier 1. These are an Oklahoma pottery company, and I can't really remember the name of these, the dinner plate. And then we have this wonderful carnival glass or Trifari glass salad plate, and then just fun for dessert, a ceramic pumpkin. Then we also use our Trifari glass, water, and wine. Interesting story on these. We were at Christmas a couple of years ago at my in-laws in Oklahoma, and our cousin-in-law said, "Oh, y'all do dinner parties. Y'all like that kind of stuff." And so she said, "I've got something for you." And in your head, you're like, "Oh, right, what's this going to be?" She drags out something that's crate size with 2 handles. I'm like, "Oh, great, what's this going to be?" And opens it up to this 460 set china, all in mahogany and antique bronze. So there is service for, I think, 45 with every kind of service utensil you would never need, fish forks and all those kinds of things. So that was a lucky gift we got. And then to make it fun, I just used the vintage candy containers here. You just slip a drinking glass down in there to protect the paper mache, and then you can build your ornament deep inside there. It also allows you to stick your place card in there. And then Jill Williamson does these wonderful, whimsical resin figures of trick-or-treaters, and they're all, some are scary, some are fun. We like all of them. So you'll see as they're scattered across the table, they work as a little bit as place card holders, and then it also just gives us a little bit of Halloween to the table. The rest is fairly simple. We use Sephora table runners, and I just did a zig across the table to give each setting its own unique color beneath it, and then just used more of the Trifari candlesticks. We've got 500 pieces of this Trifari, so we've got anything you could ever use, and you'll see it scattered throughout the house. And then for dinner, we'll be just doing something simple, enchiladas, chips, salsa, just something really great and seasonally colored. So, and then the last thing, we moved these guys in. The last time you were here, these figures were in the family room. As you see, we move things a lot, we acquire a lot. So we have new statues in the living room. So these guys now live in the dining room, and for holiday, we just put a little mask on them to make them look a little scary for the holiday. So with that, I'm going to transfer it over to Matthew. He'll be talking about the butler's pantry and the kitchen.
Welcome back to our butler's pantry, and yes, we still have an enormous bar set up in the middle of it. It stays up all the time, and you know, in these days, it does help sometimes. But for Halloween, this is kind of treat central. We'll add a couple more bowls, trick or treat night, but this is a great combination of all these great these are little Ina Schaller, little bobblehead, paper mache. They're candy containers. So you would take the bottom off and candy goes up on the inside of them. And we've got a great little collection of those here. Candy corn, popcorn balls. I made some candy apples. We'll make some caramel apples for Halloween that we give out to a lot of the neighborhood kids. But then we kept the amari and the yolk pieces up in the shelves, and we added just little pumpkins. And it's just a way to allow your everyday collection to be a little more special and a little more holiday. And then behind us, of course, we continued our great theme with the witch's hat on this great little lady. She's being greeted by 2 crows, which are her friends. And then this is a great little Bessel Halloween garland that we sized down to have her hanging there. It's a real, just kind of it's a little bit of whimsy. You know, things can get real serious really quickly, and this is a great way to yet again use what you have and bring it into the holiday. And then through the butler's pantry, we get into the kitchen. I just can't help myself. I have had this Halloween tree for a variation of this Halloween tree for easily 20, 25 years. It's grown to this. It's gotten really big, but it's so much fun, and I love all the glass, the antique and vintage Halloween ornaments. I get a couple every year. I'm not as excessive as the Christmas, but this is pretty excessive if you ask me. And then of course these are those great trick-or-treaters. The base of the tree is garnered with this great little mache haunted house, which makes it all a little bit of fun. My favorite little guy is this little guy here with the bow tie. I've had him a real long time, little jack-o'-lantern. And then there's a devil up top that's a lot of fun. And this is ground zero for our house. This is where we are all the time between the family room and the front door. This is where everything happens. So it's kind of fun to have something where you see it all the time and you get to enjoy it all the time. And lastly, along the top plate rail, you know, the tree for some reason wasn't enough. And so I thought, well, maybe we could find something to put up there. And this year, Target had the best. These black silhouette houses are all from Target, and they were very inexpensive. You know, and it was fascinating because I was at the store and I saw one or two, and then I got online and I found more of them. And what was interesting is that they're all metal. I had them electrified, and then we added the antique mache containers to kind of stagger in between. But that's yet again another layer of whimsy for Halloween that's here in the kitchen. Just something to make you smile, something to take the seriousness off of the day. And then this was one of my favorite things for Halloween. It's an antique jack-o'-lantern bubble light chandelier, and those were made popular in the 40s and the 50s. And this is, I do believe, a reproduction of one. I gifted one to my parents years ago, and I just said I had to have one too, so I ordered one for us to go here in the kitchen. And she stays on most of the time.
Okay, welcome back to our courtyard. We always try to make sure that when we're having a party that our guests are encouraged to spill throughout and outside of the house. So we also always have adequate seating outside and always set up an additional dining room table that allows you to have more guests. And it is also a great place for people to spill if, you know, they're smokers or anything like that. So with this table, we went a little more casual than the one up in the dining room. So talking about, I had looked at these plates before online through replacements.com. They're handmade and they were kind of pricey for what they were. And so I just thought, I'm going to skip this year. And everyone is different and they're all handmade. So they're kind of in, you know, they've got wavy edges and things like that. And they, of all places, we were at Home Goods and they had just enough to buy. So Home Goods managed to get a section of goods and we bought them there. I love them. Paired them with, these were my grandmother's Libby. They're nothing special. I think she used these every day in the 70s, but I thought they had a great shine and kind of brightened the table for the holiday. And then down the center of the table, I just did a combination of real pumpkins and faux pumpkins. The big, I think these are all real with the exception of the jack-o'-lanterns on the end of the table. And then just to make it simple, since it's an outdoor table, I used our everyday flatware, everyday linens, and chargers and napkins. So this really couldn't be easier and gives you a lot of impact for not a lot of money. So if we continue around, as you look around the courtyard, you'll see we did all mums. You know, every time you come, I don't have any color in the backyard, and this year we have color in the backyard. It's fall, so there's normally a little bit more, but it's still hot as the face of the sun in Dallas, Texas. So we do mums in all of the containers. And then I told you we believe in vintage or fun holiday, so we have tons of the old jack-o'-lanterns. These are all the antique ones. Some are blow molds and some are just the older plastic ones. This guy is my favorite here. Both of them have a little crack in their lips, so they're imperfect. I think they call that cleft palate now. Anyway, so these are my not quite right pumpkins, which I love. And then this is our Victorian plant stand that this year has kind of turned into a cornucopia of Halloween plenty. I guess we'll go with that. So lots of pumpkins, lots of leaves. And at night, all of these light up and really have a great look. And then the last section, again, more blow molds just scattered throughout the garden. You know, as you saw in the front, we're not afraid of a couple of blow mold pumpkins. So we scattered them throughout the garden along with the mums. Then on the table, we have a great Bethany Love spider. More jack-o'-lanterns. We did these skeletons. These are Target. I think they're $4 a piece. You see them in the window up front. I think they've got a lot of personality, and especially if you install them, not just hang them and let them drop. So if you'll notice, I make them do different poses. I cut them at levels where they're elongated, so it just makes them a little more custom. And then the last thing we have out here is right behind you are our Halloween nutcrackers that I bought at 3 a.m. when I might have been overserved one time. So they're a little shiny. They're a little less vintage than I might prefer, but they've got a lot of looks. So if you come back next year, these things will be painted down and more vintage in inspiration. So Again, you can see we go a little bit over top, but we're a firm believer in all holidays and decorating, especially around holidays. Curb to curb, we're going to decorate the majority of the house.
Welcome to our front yard. It's quite the collection of blow mold, jack-o'-lanterns, and all things Halloween. This last weekend, we built this installation. We wanted it to somewhat have a communication to the fireplace, and one of our good neighbors was having some dead trees cut down and some limbs, and I bartered with him for the branches, and then we set up in the driveway and painted it all, and then built piece by piece, crow by crow, branch by branch, and this is kind of what it turned into, which I find it to be very fascinating. And yet again, like the fireplace, it's very architectural and it's something different. Historically, we've always done a beautiful cornstalk garland with all sorts of pumpkins and gourds, and this year we wanted to do something a little different, and I think this did it. I love the bats, I love the butterflies, and then of course the crows. It's funny, I think we've messed with our crows in the neighborhood because over in the bird bath they've kind of hung out. I think they may think that these are their people, but they're really not. I don't think they know that, but we'll figure that out soon enough. You know, the first couple episodes we got a lot of comments on not having an entryway. You know, you just walk into our house. So this is kind of what we would consider our entryway. During the pandemic, we were out here nightly, and it was so nice to sit out front and just be part of the world, and neighbors would sit in the yard. But we have this great oversized porch where you have a full sitting area where you can actually enjoy the front. Most kids in our neighborhood, they play in the front yards. So it's nice that families are out and our neighbors are out in the front. And it's a nice little place. And again, we've just added a couple little jack-o'-lanterns on the coffee table. And then Bob did these dancing skeletons in all the front windows, and I think they're so fun, and they're interesting and fun from the street. And we get a lot of compliments from people walking, and their kids will come down. We have one family that their 4 kids come down every night before bedtime because they have to come see the jack-o'-lantern house before they can go to sleep. So and we'll get out in the yard and kind of show you all of the jack-o'-lanterns that we have.
For the yard, we do hundreds of jack-o'-lanterns, and we do a mix of antique blow molds and some new ones from Target. So as you walk the yard, you will see we have this guy here. He's a great old blow mold, as this guy here is. New guy here, and these 3 new from Target and of all places CVS. So my recommendation, I told you we don't do scary. We only do vintage and happy Halloween. So if you look, Family Dollar, CVS, Target, Walgreens, they all have Halloween right now. So you just have to look through it and decide what's going to work with yours. So throughout this, we actually re-landscaped the front yard this year. So you'll see a lot more flowers this year, a lot more color. I keep promising y'all color when you come. So got a little bit of end of season color here. Lots of mums and lots of like pentas still blooming. So we probably have about another 6 weeks. So that really kind of sets off the pumpkins throughout. At the front door here, we just have piles and piles of piles, topped off by the Mackenzie Child's 3-tiered pumpkin stacks in the urns. Those are joined by antique blow molds in the middle section, and then lots of gourds and blow molds down at the bottom that light. And of course, as we walk through the landscape, really more of the same. You'll just see more of the jack-o'-lanterns in varying sizes and different periods of time. And then across the way, we have our handmade scarecrow. His name is John, and he's wearing clothes that we're can't fit into anymore. So he gets a lot of neighborhood kids coming to visit and tell John's secrets, or giving them counts of how many jack-o'-lanterns they believe are in the front yard. So we love Halloween in this neighborhood. Like I said earlier, we get anywhere from 200 to 300 trick-or-treaters. We put up tons of live torches that night, so the house is really on fire. And then doesn't show in the daytime, but the full house is outlined, as are all the flower beds, with lights of Halloween color. And what that does for us, it gives us the jump on Christmas. So November 1st, all of this comes down and Christmas begins. And for this, really, it's just unscrewing lights and changing those to red, green, and white. So that's the outside.
Thanks for coming to visit us, Homeworthy. We wish you a happy Halloween.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.